Sullivan tonight. And with that said, I'm going to invite Mr. Paul Kress, a member of our Finance Committee, forward to offer the invocation. Please rise.
Will you join me in prayer? Dear Lord, we humbly come before you now on behalf of all who are present here to confess our dependence on you and ask that you guide all that we seek to accomplish tonight. We thank you for blessing us with friends, neighbors, and leaders who serve and support each other with the goal of building and maintaining a community that recognizes the needs and desires of each other. We confess our weaknesses and our tendencies to seek our own purpose and ask that you would instill in each of us a sincere desire to understand the issues that face our town and to participate tonight as servant leaders seeking the best for each other. Thank you in particular for our town staff who serve us daily and for our elected leaders who devote so much time and wisdom to the work that they do. Lead us now, and may we honor you both tonight and as we leave this meeting tonight. It's in your blessed name that we pray. Amen. Would you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Kress. We'll now move to item 2, which is approval of our agenda. Council, is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we remove consideration approval of park entrance plan, master plan from item number 9, new business, and postpone the consideration and approval of the park entrance master plan until the special called meeting on June 8th at 10:30 a.m. Here at Town Hall.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries and our agenda is approved. We'll now move on to the approval of the minutes from our May 4th meeting. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the May 4th, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Are there any further comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries and the minutes are approved. We'll now move to item number 4, resolutions, proclamations, and announcements. And we're going to start with an item that is not on the agenda, which is a proclamation in honor and memory of the late Reverend Dr. James Webster of Oak Ridge First Baptist Church. Whereas the Reverend Dr. James A. Webster was a beloved husband, father, and grandfather, friend, pastor, and community member, and whereas he was a native of Rockingham County, North Carolina, and after graduating from Charles R. Drew High School, he honorably served for 4 years in the United States Air Force. And and whereas he was ordained into the ministry in 1976, serving for 6 years as pastor of Zion Baptist Church before being appointed in 1984 as pastor of Oak Ridge First Baptist Church, a position he held for 39 years. Whereas Dr. Webster's many accomplishments include receiving the Associate of Business Management, Bachelor of Arts in Religion and Philosophy, Master of Divinity, and Doctor of Theology degrees, as well as teaching others as a continuing Christian education instructor and serving with distinction on many boards and committees. And whereas during his long and productive life, he demonstrated in countless ways his dedication and deep love for his family, the churches he served, and everyone around him, leaving a deep void with his passing. And whereas the Town Council of the town of Oak Ridge, North Carolina, notes with deep sadness the loss of Mr. James A. Webster and wishes to acknowledge and express appreciation to his family for his life of dedicated service to his church and community. Now, therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me, I do hereby deem it an honor to extend this proclamation of recognition and appreciation to the family of the Reverend Dr. James A. Webster and to the Oak Ridge First Baptist Church, and offer the town's sincerest condolences for their loss. If there is a member of the family or one or more who would like to come forward to receive the proclamation, we would like to offer it to you. I know that was a somber note, but we are very thankful for his life and service. And I know that the family and friends have a dinner to go to, so it's fine for you to leave. And as we're moving everyone about, I'd like to turn it over to Sandra Smith, our Assistant Town Manager, for the Canine Capers Awards.
Thank you, Mayor. Canine Capers was started 9 years ago, and it began as a way for people in the community that love dogs to, well, let me back that up a second. The town, first of all, said that they would like to have a dog park for people that love dogs, so you could have an off-leash place for your pets to play. This committee formed right after that as a way to raise money, and their original intent was to add additional features that the town did not supply, such as weaving poles and things the dogs, hoops they could jump through and different things like that. After that point, the dog park was kind of built out, and the event was such a great success that we decided to continue having it. And at that point, we would just give the money to the participating rescues, which is something we have continued to do. And I would like to call forward a couple of members of our Canine Capers Committee who are with us tonight, Lori Lucian and Chelsea Young, and they're going to come up and actually make the presentation this evening.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. Hello, everybody. My name is Chelsea.
I'm Lori Lucian.
And
If you can both speak into the mic, otherwise people online won't be able to hear
Okay.
you. Sorry about that.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are members of the Small But Mighty Planning Committee for the Canine Capers. I'm probably known for always wearing dog walking clothes. And we all have dogs that we utilize the Oak Ridge Town Park for as well. So this year, we had a whole line of vendors. Some returned from last year and some were new. We have art, we have canine crafts, and different vendors for dog training companies. We have training demonstrations. This year we had coffee and donuts. And we also had an online cutest dog contest that took place leading up to Canine Capers. And so all of the money that we raise over the past 10 years, besides the first one that raised the money for the park, we split among the rescue groups that come to the event. So this year we had 3 groups that came to support the event. Perfect. And we would like to present our checks to them that we raised to support those rescue groups. And we hope that it is a help to your groups and all the animals that you guys support. So first off, we have North Star Bloodhounds, and we have Mary Lou Stevens and one of her colleagues, Trippy.
This looks like a photo op.
actually rescue the dogs. We use our dogs, although several of our working dogs are rescues, but we use our dogs to rescue people, lost and missing people.
Which is why we value what you do. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Red Dog Farm Animal Rescue. And Lauren is here to accept that check.
Thank you so much.
Come back next year. And we have Katie with Rough Love Foster Care and Dog Rescue. For coming.
Absolutely. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you. So I'll give everybody a moment to take out your calendars for 2024. As you can save the date for April 27th, 2024. This is going to be the 10th annual Canine Capers event. So we will certainly work hard. We've already got our meetings scheduled to get the biggest and best Canine Capers event. And leading up to that event, we've already decided on Facebook next year we will do a dog look-alike contest. We had a really good turnout with our cutest dog contest this year, so we want to get that going to build up to the event. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, and thank you to the whole committee. We'll now move to item number 5, which is a report from the Guilford County Sheriff's Office. Do we have oh, I see someone there. Come on forward when you get a chance. We have a lot of coming and going in this meeting. Thank you all for being here.
How's everybody tonight? Everybody good?
Yep.
I'm Sergeant Joseph. I'm a new sergeant with the Guilford County Sheriff's Office, and I'm here to report on our calls for service. In May, the Sheriff's Office responded to a total of 203 calls for service in Oak Ridge town limits, and it resulted in 23 case reports. On 5/11, a resident in the town, Oak Ridge town limits had an unsecured lawnmower taken from their resident. Due to the neighbors and their security footage, we were able to identify both subjects that took it and take out felony habitual larceny charges for that event. We wanted to have a big thank you to all of you guys and the residents of Oak Ridge with providing us all the security footage that you had in order to help us really get these guys and press forward charges. Okay?
So I'm,
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
I'm assuming they were apprehended?
They were.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
report. And welcome. We'll now turn to item number 6, a report from the Oak Ridge Fire Department. Come on forward.
Good evening. Here's a report from the fire department for the month of May. We responded to 81 total calls of service. 672 hours of training was held by all volunteers and employees. We had 2 staff members attend a officers' company training at Guilford Tech, and then we had 7 members attend a regional training at Pine Needles plant in Stokesdale. And just the fire department's wanting to remind everybody with the warmer weather coming up, please remember to stay hydrated.
Thank you. And for the record, could you give us your name?
Sorry, I'm Engineer Justin Owens.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We'll now move to item number 7, which is a public hearing to consider the 2023 fiscal year budget for our town and adoption of the ordinance that goes along with that. To open the budget hearing, I'll ask Town Manager Bill Bruce to present his budget message and a summary of the budget. A copy of both the message and the budget is available on the back table. It's also been available on our town website and as a hard copy. And it was originally presented last month, but we're presenting it again in the event that there are people here who didn't hear last month's presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. As the mayor mentioned, if those of you that were here last month, this will be a repeat. Nothing has changed since the release of the budget a month ago, but I'm going to give an overview of the recommendations in the budget and outline some of the major initiatives that are included within. First of all, I would love to acknowledge the work of our Finance Committee in providing considerable input, recommendations, and oversight into the budget this year, and especially to our Finance Officer, Sam Anders, and his staff, including Brianna Cardwell, for their knowledge and expertise. After 4 meetings of the Finance Committee, concluding with a favorable recommendation, I present this report to the Council and citizens in the form of a recommended budget. The proposed fiscal year 2023-24 budget reflects the realization of the long-term strategic vision of the Town Council, as laid out in the town's strategic plan and capital improvement plan. After multiple years of planning and discussion, several major capital investments are programmed in the coming year's budget, including the construction of a 250,000-gallon elevated water storage tank and engineering for a 3.5-mile water line to connect the elevated tank to Winston-Salem, Forsyth County utilities. Not only will this investment provide crucial water for fire protection, but will provide the backbone for the town's municipal water system. This $2.9 million investment in the town's future will be fully funded by state and federal grants. Investment in parks, open space, and trails is also reflected in this year's budget. Renovation of the Redmond House into the Farmhouse Community Center, beautification and functional improvements to the grounds surrounding the farmhouse site, including new parking and sidewalks, and construction of the Veterans Honor Green at the Heritage Farm Park site are all programmed in the coming fiscal year. The town has received an additional $430,000 in state and federal grants, in addition to over $90,000 in generous donations for the Veterans Honor Green. That's a number that continues to rise, and it's probably out of date now that it's 30 days old. All of these donations and grants will contribute to the construction costs of these projects. Other initiatives include further investment in the town's growing network of trails, new bleachers and other improvements at the town park, and an inclusive playground at Heritage Farm Park. And as a reminder, the Heritage Farm Park has been budgeted separately in a capital project ordinance that Council approved several months ago. The budget also supports an expanded Music in the Park series, of which we had a preview several weeks ago, a Town of Oak Ridge 25th anniversary celebration, as well as popular events including Ridge Fest and Light Up the Night. Operating expenses are proposed to increase 14% over the current budget year due to a number of reasons, including the increased costs associated with the management of nearly $6 million in grants, as well as increased cost for goods and services in general. Consulting expenses account for a portion of this increase as well for assistance in a much-needed major project to streamline and modernize the town's development ordinance. Merit raises of up to 5% for town staff are included in the year's budget. Our staff, as council knows, provides outstanding citizen service and management of increasingly demanding day-to-day responsibilities and provides exceptional service to the town's parks and public spaces. The increase in operating expenses is partially offset by a projected 10% increase in revenues that includes property and sales tax receipts, formula-based state distributions, and other sources such as interest and ABC revenue. This revenue increase is outside of the $6 million in grants and donations. The 2023-24 recommended budget proposes no change to the property tax rate of 8 cents as adopted in 2017. Even with a number of major capital investments, including investment in parks and water, the budget anticipates a fund balance in excess of $2 million at the end of fiscal year 23-24. This year's proposed budget therefore maintains the current tax rate, funds these initiatives.
This year's budget, both revenue and expenses, and we compare it to this year's projected actuals. We ask Bill and Sam to go through the budget because sorry, when we start the budget review, the fiscal year is not over, so we ask them to project what they believe the actual expenses are going to be for this year. And we compare last year's expenses to this year's expenses. And if there's any glaring differences, we ask the council members that are there, and there are always 2 council members that attend the Finance Committee, for explanations of the differences. And we go line item by line item through the budget, both revenue and expenses. And then the third meeting, we go through the capital, and that's just an oversight thing because the council gets together and approves the capital expenditures for the year, and we just review what impact that's going to have on the fund balance and what ways to finance that and what impact it might have on the tax rate, if any. And then this year, once we get through that, and again, it is we go through almost every single project and look at it and see what the impact might be. And then this year, we had a 4th meeting because there were some questions around the capital budget and what that might be and what it might mean. And then we got together for a 4th meeting to discuss that. And again, the council meeting members provided us explanations for everything that went on. And I will say, 14% increase in expenses over a 10% increase in revenue seems to be excessive. But with all the projects that are being planned and implemented, not this year and in future years, to have all that take place and have a budget fund balance in excess of what is needed to fund the projects this year and is there for future projects, I believe that the budget is a good budget, it's a responsible budget, and there's no fluff in it. So with that, if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. I think we'll move into the public hearing, and you'll be available for council if they have questions later. I'll now open the public hearing with a 20-minute period for public comments in support of the proposed budget for the next fiscal year.
Madam Mayor, we don't typically have a pro and con.
Yes, we do. We've
Not with
done,
the
we
budget?
have, yeah, we do.
Yes. We did last year.
Yeah, we do.
I don't recall that. We
Well,
typically just
we
have.
do. We've been having it for.
I'm sorry, hold on one second.
I believe.
Mr. Bruce, last year, I'm using the same approach I used last year. We had a public hearing with comments pro and in opposition. Is that not correct?
I believe that is correct.
Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't mean that someone who just wants to make a comment can't preface their comments with an either the pro or against public hearing portion to simply say, I have concerns and I'd like to express them to be on the record if a firm position is not wanted to be taken.
Because that's what I'm saying is typically when people make comments about the budget, they usually make pro and con comments about the budget. And I just feel that, I don't, like I said, I may have a faulty memory, but I usually thought that the public hearing for the budget was basically you come up, make your comments, you can do whatever, you can say whatever you want, pro, con. And that's where I just don't, like I said, I may have a faulty memory, but I don't recall us putting a pro-con label on things.
I
But
think
whatever.
It is
Pros and
the same, but you raise a great point that people can say anything they want. If you want to speak in support and you also have questions, you can raise the questions. We do have a limited period for each in support and in opposition, and we do offer time for rebuttals. This is the way we've done it for the entire time I've been mayor. So now if, Ms. Smith, if you would keep time for us. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of the budget? If so, raise your hand and I'll ask you to come forward and state your name and address for the record. Ms. Domchowski, I saw you first.
Excuse me, Mayor, do you just want me to keep a total?
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yes.
When she starts.
Right.
We don't want to take Patty's time.
No.
My time away.
Patty Demchowski, 7320 Hidden View Drive. I support the budget this year. I thank the committee for all the work that they've done and the open sessions that they've had with the public. And while all these capital budget investments get a lot of the attention, the water storage, the water system, the farmhouse, the Heritage Park, the playground, the roundabouts and sidewalks, and I think they're all worthwhile projects for our growing town. I'd just like to highlight the line items for the Oak Ridge family community and preserving our place in history. Special events, and a lot of this interface is with the budget, and I think it's so important, the growing number of trails with the coordination of the MTS committee with matching funds, the expanded music in the park event, which, sorry to take your thunder, but had over 7,000 to 1,000 people last time we met. My special events, the Veterans Honor Green with the matching funds, the holiday celebrations of the Light Up the Night, the 4th of July, Veterans ceremonies, and the 25th anniversary celebration, all supported in this budget. Heritage Day, Ridge Fest. So I think it's important that all of those other projects are mentioned and mean a lot to people in this community. I think the continued support of our wonderful staff that provides exceptional service to the community and also to the outside vendors that have to come in, the developers that deal with us here. I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw your hand up, Ms. Engel.
Barbara Engel, 8524 Rosedale Drive. Much of what Patty said, I agree with. And I just really want to thank the town, all the officers, the council, the budget, or the finance people, and our finance group committee. I volunteer on the historic preservation group, and I volunteer on the event group. And this budget is going to help us bring a lot of events to all the families in Oak Ridge. I think it brings the town together. It really, I'm very supportive of it because it gives us the means to create these events and go forward. And in talking to other people outside of Oak Ridge, they go, oh, you live in Oak Ridge. That's such a nice park. And they're always got, oh, that's a really nice area. So people are coming this way, and we need to keep up with that. We can't fall back, just like with the water tower. And of course, we're doing the Veterans Honor Green in the park. I'm really involved with that, and I'm really proud of that. So that's it. I'm proud of it, this budget, and I'm glad we're doing it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Mr. Browning? Oh, and you'll be next, Mr. Kress.
Hello, Council. My name is John Browning. I live at 8024 Linville Road. I would just like to voice my support for the proposed budget that's coming up. I'm not going to repeat what's already been said, but I can't imagine life without the park across the road. And fortunately, we have, a problem. It's getting full and used, and myself and my family, if we're not at the park every day, it's pretty close. So I just can't imagine life without the park. And places like the park and the Heritage Farm Park is what makes Oak Ridge the special place to live that it is. And with the water, that I understand it will help the fire department and keep our insurance rates low. And I think Mr. Anders and I were in elementary school when we first started talking about water. So it's good to kind of see some results of those efforts. So you don't consider having a reliable water source until you don't have a reliable water source. So I commend everybody's efforts. I personally don't know Mr. Jenkins, but I had met him the last time or two. And again, with your financial stewardship from over these past years, you know that this year was coming where it'd be a lot of big expenditures, so you've planned well, and I feel good about the future with the growth, and again, I take a lot of pride in Oak Ridge and the park, and just look forward to the future, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kress.
I'm Paul Kress at 5809 Willow Way Court, but the statement's being made for Stuart Meese, who lives at 1810 Wild Fern Drive and serves on the Finance Committee. He's unable to attend tonight's meeting due to an out-of-town work commitment. So as a member of the committee, myself and others are participating in the representative form of government by asking questions, providing our insights, and contributing our unique professional abilities to the governing process. The results of this year's budget is a culmination of years of planning and hours of meetings in implementing the town's comprehensive master plan, including the capital projects that will preserve and enhance the attributes of this town that make it such a desirable place. The town's leadership, consisting of staff, elected officials, and citizen volunteers, have been excellent stewards of the town, and this consistent leadership has enabled us to not only focus on a single year of town activities, but to impact future generations and iterations of the town's affairs. The fruit of this labor have specifically benefited all residents and will benefit residents in the future. First, Oak Ridge boasts the highest household income and housing values of any other zip code in the Triad, and second place is not even close. Second, Oak Ridge has one of the lowest tax rates while also being one of the most fiscally healthy municipalities in the state of North Carolina that others envy. Third, schools and public places are a competitive advantage to our community, with our school district rated one of the best, if not the best in the Triad, and our public park are a main attractor of families with children, which is the lifeblood of any community. Fourth, being located 20 miles equidistant to the downtowns of Winston-Salem and Greensboro, and being 90 minutes from the two other population centers in North Carolina, in the #1 state to do business, make job and business opportunities in a post-COVID hybrid work environment that much more appealing to our residents. Finally, nestled beside the PTI Airport creates a unique advantage for the town to benefit from the robust and super expanding aviation sector in the Triad. With other major economic development announcements being made in surrounding areas, the desire for our community will only grow. This budget, including the capital investments being made, will enable us to continue reaping benefit from what has been sown in the past, and also plant new seeds that will produce fruit on our groves for generations to come. I wholeheartedly endorse the budget that the Finance Committee and Council has presented. That's from Stuart Meese.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett, I think. Oh, sorry, you'll be next. You guys want to fight? Whoever wins, come forward. Sorry, Mr. Harton, I saw his hand first.
My name's John Garrett. I live at 8604 Broomfield Road in Oak Ridge. I'm also in favor of the 23-24 budget. When I read the town manager's summary on the budget, it brought back a lot of thoughts of the history of why the 10 strategic items, initiatives on the budget are there. The water has been an issue here for many years, and the development of the park and other initiatives, they've all come together at one time so that this budget is, I don't know, it's the largest, I think it's one of the largest budgets this town's ever had. But it doesn't concern me. I think it reflects the standard of living we want here, not only for our life today, but it sets forth a standard for many years in the future. It lays the groundwork for that. So I'm in favor of it, and I appreciate the work that the committees have done to support the information that was used to develop the budget. And I would hope that you approve this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harton.
Jim Harton, 5901 Pepper Road. Essentially what he said. I've been on the Budget Committee for 3 years. I've watched and learned the process that John and has worked with us on, and it gets complicated. I just wanted to remind people, these budgets are not static because opportunities change, opportunities for funding changes, and the priorities change. But one of the things that John did not mention that I want to reemphasize is, as we look through this, we're looking at a lot of numbers, but we're looking at it from the standpoint of, are these consistent with the strategic plan of the town? And the fact is, it is. And I fully support it. I worked through it, again, for the third time. The gentleman before me, I think, spoke much better to it than I would have done. But I fully support this budget, and think hopefully you'll vote for it as we go further tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak during this time? If not, we'll close the period for comments in support of the proposed budget, and we'll now move to a 20-minute period for public comment in opposition to the proposed budget for the next fiscal year. Again, I ask speakers to come forward, state their name and address for the records, and to keep their comments brief. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Mr. Smith, come on forward.
Michael Smith, 5904 Tarleton Drive in Oak Ridge. I'm not speaking against the budget. That's not my purpose, but given the conversation you guys had before, I'm requesting a process improvement, or for you to consider a process improvement. I participated in the development, not directly, but through the papers of how the budget came to be. And the one thing that I would like to suggest is that the town council formally amend the capital improvement process to include a 45-day pause following the receipt of qualified contractor bids, in which the lowest bid is 30% or more higher than the estimated cost of the project. The reason for the 45-day pause before the vote of the council would allow the taxpayers of Oak Ridge to voice their opinion on the project during a town meeting. A 30% or more increase is a material change to any project, and proper representation, I believe, requires that those paying for the project should be given the opportunity to share their perspective on such a change. That's my request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, we'll close this period for comment, and I will open a 5-minute rebuttal period for those who are in support of the proposed budget, but who wish to rebut statements made by anyone who spoke in opposition. Is there anyone who wishes to offer a rebuttal? Seeing no one, we will close that period. And now we will enter a 5-minute rebuttal period for those in opposition of the proposed budget who wish to rebut statements made by those in support. This gets complicated. Would anyone like to speak during this period? Seeing no one, we will close that period. And I'll now close the public hearing. Council, I invite you to consider the proposed budget as well as the statements made during this public hearing Would you like to have a period of discussion first or offer a motion?
I think we probably should offer a motion.
Let's make a motion then. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt and the Town of Oak Ridge budget for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Don't we need to do the ordinance?
That is from the ordinance.
I think we need to adopt the ordinance as well.
Oh, specify ordinance number 2023-01.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Now we'll enter a period of discussion, starting with you, Councilman McClellan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with that this has been an extremely responsible budget. It is, and you're right, it is probably our largest budget, but it was done responsibly with great input by our citizens who make up the Finance Committee, led ably by our chairman, by the chairman. And, you know, as just to kind of clarify things, we do have 2 council members who do sit on the committee. However, they are not voting members of the committee. They are there to address questions. And I think there was somebody who made some reference that, you know, in some email today about that y'all were, you know, being dictated to by the council. Well, nothing could be further from the truth, because council members do not have the ability to vote on the committee. And y'all have done a very able job. I mean, think about it. We have two major projects that have already been approved. A third one that's coming. You know, the park, what was that, about $6 million, if I remember correctly, total. I mean, the house, which will be a new community center, and then, of course, the one that has yet to be voted upon, which will be the water tower. I mean, this is a tremendous year, and it addresses some of those challenges that are going to be coming with the coming of Boom Supersonic and Mitchell, which will bring a combined over somewhere around 2,500 jobs, and to just the Northwest. I mean, we have been planning for this happening. Over 20 years, we've been talking about some of these things, and they're finally happening. This budget is extremely responsible. It is also extremely, I think it's very conservative in many respects from a fiscal conservative perspective. As the chairman said, there is no fluff and in this budget. So I wholeheartedly support it. I believe it is a budget that will that shows that we are going to progress into the future, and we will be a fiscally solid town. And we will not lose the things that have made Oak Ridge great. In fact, it will help overall attract people. It will also help us in our planning processes down the road. In addition, we have a very able staff. We would not be able to do these many projects without the staff that we have. And yeah, 5%, you guys have earned it. And don't go spend it quite yet, though. And but this is a good budget, and I'm very proud to know you guys, and proud to having sat in as and when the mayor was unable to on the committee, I witnessed firsthand just the great work that you guys were doing. And this is the fact that we are able to do these 3 major projects, millions of dollars, without raising the tax rate. That's phenomenal. So I plan to vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kinnaman.
I realize I'm going to narrow in on what some people will see as a trivial portion of the budget, but I think it's important because it sets a tone for the importance of paying attention to the little things. The Finance Committee has done a great job, as they do each and every year. Mr. Jenkins runs a really tight ship, and I'm very impressed with what they do. They always give us a well-thought-out budget, and it's very well. I'm grateful and appreciate that the Finance Committee recommended increasing our stipend. Given our current economic context and the financial challenges our community is facing, I believe it is essential to carefully consider our allocation of resources. While we need to be competitive in our staff salaries, as mentioned, there's no need for our stipends to be competitive. I have yet to see any of the seats up here go empty with people saying we don't pay enough. If we're doing it for future councils, shouldn't we wait as Mr. Cook did when he first proposed it and recommended increases as we retire from council? With the impact of inflation on our projects, we should reject this year's increase to help fund these projects. Every dollar in stipend is a dollar that can go to a project. If we improve the increase tonight, that will be another $6,000 increase to the budget this year, totaling $18,000 considering all three increases. Remember, that is $18,000 each and every year. There is a lot we can do with that money. Let me give you an example of where we can use that money that has long-term benefits. We are considering what materials to use for one of the parking lots for the community center. We can use asphalt, which will be cheaper out of the gate, but has ongoing maintenance issues. It has to be top-coated and eventually crack and need to be reapplied, along with giving us a more impervious surface and a larger heat island combined with a less desirable appearance. We could also go with what is called turf block, which allows grass to grow up through and rain to drain down through it. It generates a smaller heat island than asphalt. Less runoff means fewer pollutants in our streams. Less runoff and heat means the surrounding trees are under less stress. And there is less maintenance in the long run, and it looks nicer. So while a bit more expensive out of the gate, in the long run is likely to be less expensive with additional benefits. Now, the cost difference does need to be covered, and I believe that's somewhere around $25,000. So it'll be about $25,000 more to use turf block. Eliminating this year's stipend increase will offset the costs in about 4 years, not counting the ongoing savings and benefits. If we rolled back to our original stipend, we would cover it in about 2 years. Normally, I would vote for a budget because this budget is a good budget. And I agree, this is more a protest vote against it than it is trying to stop the budget, because I know there are 3 votes that are here to vote for it. But I would strongly encourage that we not do the stipend increase this year, because that's money that comes from the taxpayers, and it's money that we can use for projects. It's money that's not going to dramatically incentivize someone to run for council. It's not going to change the quality of people that are running for council. It's not necessary for us to have a stipend that this. We are a council manager form of government, which means the day-to-day running of the town is turned over to staff. Council sets policy. None of us up here have been prevented from having full-time jobs. None of us have a problem balancing our work and town business. So I don't believe we need the stipend to be increased. And this is money that is taxpayer money that should be used for projects. The stipend increase last year basically negated the members of council to have to pay the increase in taxes. My taxes went up $260 last year. If you take county, fire, and Oak Ridge town taxes, they went up $260. Well, the town gave me $1,200. So basically, the increase in taxes didn't affect me, okay? So I would encourage council to seriously consider removing the stipend increase from the budget this year. And I realize normally I would vote for something like this, but like I said, I think it's important as a protest vote. I will not support this budget.
I'm curious.
Thank you. Let's
Madam
let
Mayor,
everyone else speak first.
Okay.
Everyone gets to speak, and then we can have further discussion. Councilwoman Pittman.
Yes. Normally, I sit here, and by the time it gets around to me, I have crossed off 90% of what I want to say. But tonight, I am going to risk boring you by repeating a lot of what has already been said. Simply because I guess I want to go on record saying it. This is an ambitious budget.
Mm-hmm.
It reflects years of planning and projects that are all coming online seemingly at one time. It also reflects significant grant funding for these large projects. This annual budget represents 1 year in the financial story of Oak Ridge, and to fully understand it, we need to look at the context of the past and the future. The operating part shows reasonable growth over time that accounts for both inflation and growth in the services we provide and the services we need in terms of consulting and those things as we grow as a town. The capital budget is very different this year. But when looked at in the context alongside the CIP plans, and we looked at this in finance, the CIP plans of the last 5 years and the next 5 years, you realize that a lot of it is a matter of timing. Timing related to available grant funds, which are covering 70% of our CIP budget here. And timing related to the fruition of thoughtful project development over multiple years. We are charged with planning and preparing for the future, and this budget does that. When these multi-year projects are completed, the town will have water for fire suppression and the foundation of a municipal water system, the new Heritage Farm Park for a growing town while we protect a large part of it as open space, the Farmhouse Community Center situated on a newly landscaped corner where residents can gather year-round, a beautiful veteran site for residents and visitors to reflect on those who serve and have served our country. We'll have improved traffic flow and more attractive intersections. We'll have additional trails and sidewalks for residents. Advancing these projects meets the goals and guidelines found in our town plans that were developed with citizen input. All of these projects will benefit the residents of Oak Ridge for years to come. The issue of the stipend has come up. This is the third year, and I have generally kept silent. But this year I've decided to speak. I'm always a little surprised at how folks tend to focus on one thing that's seemingly small, but they don't like. I have a tendency to do that myself at times. It's easy to find something you don't like. It's harder to find things you do like. So the one item that draws attention is the modest council stipend. For those of us who serve as liaison on multiple committees and on multiple working groups, as I do, I'm liaison on 3 committees and I serve on 2 working groups who take an active interest in everything Oak Ridge every day, who serve the community in many unofficial ways, and who give back to the community much more in time and money than we receive. The stipend can't begin to be called getting paid for what we do. We all do and give so much more back to the community. I would do this job if I didn't get a dime, because I love Oak Ridge and I want the very best for this town, and I want to work for her. But it is nice to be given the means to cover some of your expenses and to be able to donate more generously back to the community and the wonderful groups in this community. And I know for myself speaking, I'm sure I donate much more back to Oak Ridge and the organizations and the people in this community than I ever receive in that stipend. So that's all I'll say about that. It's easy to criticize, as I said, so in contrast, I would like to point out a few of the small but great things that I think this budget provides for. And most of them have already been mentioned, but bear with me. Grants that encourage preservation and conservation in Oak Ridge. We hear it all the time. Preserve Oak Ridge, keep Oak Ridge, Oak Ridge. We're doing that. We increased our historic preservation grants this year to help the owners of our historic structures be able to keep and maintain them to a higher standard. Many of you might not know, we provide the meals for seniors through Senior Resources of Guilford County for a monthly luncheon. We support ORYA and our youth in many ways at our park, and cheering them on. We have Light Up the Night, which brings people from all over. We have Heritage Day that celebrates the old Oak Ridge, the one that we try so hard and work so hard to preserve. Those are just a few. Because everyone likes these budget items, they get very little notice, but they are worthy of your attention. We are asked to consider this budget as a whole. Does everyone get everything they wanted? No. Does it have some things in it that folks don't think should be funded? Yes. Taken as a whole, does it provide for what Oak Ridge residents want and need now, and provide for future needs in a fiscally responsible way? I believe that it does, and I support the budget as presented.
Thank you. Thank you. We've heard a variety of opinions up here and at last month's meeting and this month's meeting, and I want to thank everybody for offering their input, and we'll get to you, George.
Oh, I'm fine. Actually, she said everything I was going to say, except she did it far more eloquently.
That's great. We have heard some criticism of the budget as a whole, and I think the idea that we've planned and invested in what George has so aptly called the year of large projects, I simply have to overlook excuses not to invest in our town and its future, because I think that's what this budget does. So when I hear from naysayers who are few and far between, that's how I categorize it. The support for this budget is deep and well-informed, even beyond what we've heard tonight. Here's one example. The other day I was at a merchants meeting here in the morning, and a business person who I know well but I don't see very often said, "I love Oak Ridge. I'm the biggest cheerleader Oak Ridge has. I support everything you're doing." And someone I had just met was standing nearby who has moved back to Oak Ridge and moved his office here, and he said, "I love Oak Ridge too. I'm never leaving because they do great things here." These two people are so busy, they don't have time to delve into the budget or to come to this meeting, but they trust us to do all these good things. They read about us, they keep up with it. They're not misinformed or ill-informed, but they're not engaged in the budget process. So I'm grateful to all of you who are engaged. And I know committee members, sometimes people think that, oh, a committee member is going to automatically support everything in a budget. I don't think that's true, because I've known committee members, and some of you even may feel this way. You get to see the good, the bad, and the in-between about the town through your work with your committee and coming to meetings like this. So you are more well-informed, but there may be things that you disagree with or that you question, and that's fine. But when someone that well-informed comes forward, as many of you have done tonight, and supports, and have come to me personally, and supports this budget, that means a lot. As I mentioned last month, I support this year's small salary increase, and I do want to clarify, it's not a stipend, it's a salary. It's taxable salary for council members, because it's consistent with best practices for towns of our size, something that Oak Ridge prides itself on. It's appropriate to compensate public servants, particularly since the demands of serving on our council have increased significantly over the last several years. For myself, I spend 35 to 40 hours a week, every week, year-round, except maybe when I'm on vacation. I think having an appropriate small salary is a small way of encouraging others to serve and to show them that their service is appreciated. In this sense, these small increases are not a takeaway. They're an investment in our town's future, benefiting not just this council, but those who will hold these seats after we leave. And I thought your point about, it makes it possible for us to donate more than we might have done. I was looking at how much I had donated to town projects, Canine Capers, Veterans Honor Green, and some other things over the past three years, and I was shocked at how much I had donated back. I'm sorry to my husband, who may not have been tracking this as closely. But we all have the ability to give it back, and that's up to each of us. I also want to say that in the spirit of looking for cost savings, this council has done that and continues to do that on every project we do. We vet each one of these large projects multiple times. The town park, which some people have been surprised, I saw something in the paper today, someone doesn't like the new park that we're building. Well, that's been before council probably 10 times, 10 decision points for the new Heritage Farm Park. So there are lots of opportunities, and every one of those meetings, some of them have been public hearings, for instance, for the loan that we took out where no one spoke in opposition. But there are always many, many opportunities for residents to speak out, both publicly and privately through emails and conversations with all of us and with staff, and we welcome that. And that story can be told about every one of the projects that's in this budget, all of the large projects. The smaller projects are also open to comment, although they don't typically have as many decision points. We always look to ensure maximum cost efficiency. For example, our staff worked hard with our finance officer to obtain the lowest interest rate possible on the loan we've taken out, reducing debt service costs way below other financing methods, such as issuing municipal bonds. A simple loan such as this is also much easier for the town to pay back. We also elected to complete the work on Heritage Farm Park, all of Phase 1 at once, rather than spreading it out over a couple of years as we had initially planned, once we learned that we could save 10 to 20% on the overall cost. This is always the goal. Looking for outside funding, as Councilman Pittman has shared, is always a priority, but it's a particularly large part of our budget this year. We applied and received a prestigious state Part F grant of $490,000. We elected to apply the full amount of our our direct ARPA funds, totaling $1.65 million to the new park. For water, we raised $3.265 million from the county and are currently being considered for $4 million from the state. And we've submitted 2 smaller requests to the county as well. At the same time, we're actively looking for other funding sources since we don't take any future allocations of funding for granted. None of these asks for funding are easy. Every one of them requires majority support from council and a great deal of work in preparing the necessary information. We're not successful 100% of the time, but we also don't count on having monies that we haven't been awarded. And I agree that there are things in this budget that I like better than others, but I think it's like a lot of things in life. If you support 90% of what your charitable organization that you're a part of does, you still support it. If you support even sometimes 80%, if you support a candidate's positions 80% of the time, you generally support and vote for that candidate. Therefore, it seems strange to me that someone would vote against this budget when 1/2 of 1% of the administrative budget of $1 million, which isn't anywhere near, I can't even think of how minuscule it is of the total budget. It seems odd to vote against it on such a small basis, but I do understand it as a protest vote. You did explain that well, Mayor Pro Tem. But I don't think any of us could say that we like every part of every project as well as the next part. But as always, our work in Oak Ridge is thoughtful and it's conservative in its principles. Everything is presented transparently without exaggeration. Revenues are estimated conservatively, and expenses are estimated with inflationary pressures considered and all potential cost savings actively pursued. This is just the definition of good governance, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And it's made possible by the outstanding fiscal management of our town staff and our finance officer and his staff. We're also grateful to our attorney for his assistance in ensuring that we follow all the applicable statutes. Thank you. Is there any further discussion at this point?
Just once again, Madam Mayor, like you and Martha, I agree, very eloquent. I mean, I think, there are always going to be things within this budget that, I have projects that I think in here that are, I think, superb. There are others that, we all do that. I mean, that's kind of like, that's life. But to be honest, we have a good thing. As far as the I think that $100 times 5 comes out to $6,000, if I remember, versus what we're trying to accomplish here, it's nothing. I mean, of course, on one hand, you're saying you're against 6,000, but on the other hand, you're saying we should spend 20,000. So, so my thinking is that we have a really good budget. And I look at the total picture. We've been talking about this for over 20 years, actually 25. And on water, we've been talking about, increase, for the parks. We've been talking, I can remember back when someone wanted to do a YMCA, but couldn't find the money for it. Now, I can tell you, in my case, I go down to Raleigh, and I'm on the phone with Raleigh. And, so you're getting I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but I think you're getting a good worth for your money. We were on the phone this week with a couple members and ranking members down in Raleigh on some money that we've got in the proposed budget. Also was talking to one of our commissioners. Actually, it was, the chairman. I work across party lines. And because I want to make sure that we have full, solid support for these things. And so, yeah, I've been working. In fact, I can remember one time Martha and I found ourselves, I guess, working as we were walking down the old MST when it was on the road. And we came up with the idea of the MST committee, which has done a tremendous job in getting the Mountain to the Sea Trail built through this town. And they're looking at other things. So, we're working. And we do look at the budget, and that's the reason why, we've got if these 3 projects that we have are finally approved this year, by council, that's just the beginning. And so there's a lot still to come. So anyway, I intend to vote for this budget. I think it's a great budget. I would encourage my friend next to me to put aside his differences on the $6,000 and vote for this budget, which is forward-looking and will mean a lot. People in the future may never know who we are, but they will say, I believe, that somebody did a great job. That's the end.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion,
I'd like
Council?
to follow up a little bit. I apologize if anything I said diminishes the rest of the budget. The rest of the budget is a fabulous budget. We are accomplishing great things. And I fully support all those things. I just feel that, to be very blunt, that our arguments and defenses for why we should increase our own salaries comes across a bit tone deaf. That $6,000 is a small portion of a multi-million-dollar budget. There's no question about it. It is trivial. I prefaced my initial comments with saying I'm going to bring up what many of you will see as trivial. But it sets a tone for our sensitivity to our residents. Like I said, last year, regardless of how you spin it, we collected more taxes from you. But at the same time, we gave ourselves a raise. At the very least, we should have at least paused during the year that we raised taxes to increase our own salary. I also want to say that these little projects, I have no problem spending the appropriate amount of money. So if Turf Block makes the sense to spend on and is a wise investment, I'm perfectly fine with spending $25,000 more if it gives you the right payback. What's the ROI on that? The argument I made was that asphalt will be a cheap investment now, but it'll cost us more later. So if we spend a little more money now, we'll spend money down the road. But yeah, we're doing amazing things. And if my vote put the budget in absolute danger, I'd consider differently. But I know there's 3 solid votes up here that's going to pass this budget, which is going to accomplish much of what I want to have accomplished. But I feel that because of be point blank, our tone deafness on this salary thing, I'm going to make a protest vote of not approving the budget to hopefully send the message that we need to be a little more sensitive about when we raise our salary. I don't dispute that we should get something, but I just think that we're being a little bit tone deaf up here, trivializing what $6,000 is. I'd be happy to have $6,000. There's a lot of things I could do with $6,000. There's a lot of things the town can do with $6,000. There's a lot we can do with $1 million, but there's also a lot we can do with $6,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion, council?
Nope,
If-
let's go forward.
If not, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
The motion carries, and the budget and the budget ordinance are approved. Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who participated in this process. We'll now move to our next item, which is a text amendment, and I will turn it over to our planning director, Mr. Sean Taylor, to introduce the text amendment.
Mayor and council members, we have a text amendment before you tonight, and the purpose of this is to amend Chapter 30 of the Oak Ridge Code of Ordinances to amend a portion of Article 4, Boards and Commissions, Division 2, Planning and Zoning Board, Section 30-167, Membership Ordinance. Recent voluntary annexation, and also with the recent census, has shown us that there's been a decrease in the overall population in the Oak Ridge extraterritorial jurisdiction. Due to this decrease in population, the ETJ, or extraterritorial jurisdiction, is now overrepresented on the Planning and Zoning Board. Staff recommend changing the membership of the Planning and Zoning Board to reflect a decrease in ETJ representation to better reflect the equal representation across the whole population of the town and ETJ. The Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously 4-0 to recommend approval of this text amendment. So currently we have 2 members that represent basically a north and south partition of our extraterritorial jurisdiction, and we'd be decreasing that down to just 1 representative.
Thank you. Council, I'll now open a public hearing with a 20-minute period for public comments in support of the proposed text amendment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this topic? Seeing no one, we will now move to a 20-minute period for public comment in opposition to the proposed text amendment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, I will close this portion of the public hearing, and rebuttals will not be necessary, so I'll now close the public hearing. Council, I now invite you to consider the materials we've received. Is there a motion on this matter?
Make a motion, we approve the amendment to Section 30-167 of the Town of Oak Ridge Code of Ordinance to ensure compliance with NC Statute 160D-307, specifically to clarify the number of extraterritorial jurisdiction representatives serving on the Town Planning and Zoning Board.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion, council? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. Would all in favor signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries, and the text amendment is approved. We will now move to the town manager's report, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Bruce.
Several items in my report this evening. The first is to consider reappointment of Caroline Ruck to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Thank you. Council, in accordance with our policy regarding appointments to standing boards and committees, and based on a consensus vote of this council, consideration of this reappointment has been placed on tonight's agenda. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I recommend that we reappoint Carolyn Ruck to the Historic Preservation Committee.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries, and the reappointment of Ms. Ruck is approved. Back to you.
Thank you. I'd like to take an opportunity, if I may, to update the council and the public on several projects that are about to get underway here in the town. The first, today marks the start date of construction of Heritage Farm Park. As part of that moment, we're asking citizens and residents respectfully to refrain from using the portion of the park that will be under active construction. That means that there will be no more access on Scoggins Road. The trails that can be accessed from the sidewalk on 150 will remain open, and we also will be able to allow folks to park at the town hall parking lot and access trails from the town hall parking lot. We do have a map online that shows you exactly where those boundaries are. I noticed earlier today a construction trailer was moved on site. I expect survey crews and some heavy equipment to be on site soon, so an exciting moment for this project.
Thank you.
Secondly, you may have noticed utility crews at the 68 and 150 intersection removing some vegetation. That's in anticipation of utility line movement as part of the 68-150 intersection project. Duke Energy crews will be out in the next several weeks making those adjustments, and other utilities will follow. That work will be done sometime in the fall. NCDOT advises that construction will probably begin sometime in early 2024. It's something the town council has heard before. The start date that consistently gets pushed back. And this is due to a number of reasons, not the least of which is how active the contracting and grading community is right now. And I think the DOT is staging projects to reflect that level of demand. And as a reminder, there will be congestion over that 2-year construction period, and we just ask folks to be patient and to be kind, and we'll all get through it, and we'll have a wonderful streetscape and functioning intersections when complete.
Maybe we need some T-shirts, be patient, be kind. With a stoplight on it.
Good idea. Thank
Are there
you.
any questions about either of those projects?
No, thank you. Do you have other business?
Yes, and lastly, I'd like to just acknowledge and congratulate Deputy Clerk Ashley Royal, who recently received certified municipal clerk status from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. And she joins our Assistant Manager, Town Clerk, Sandra Smith, in that designation. And that just reflects the continuing education and the dedication to professional development that the staff here at Town Hall continues to have.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Congratulations to Ashley and to our entire town staff, because it just keeps getting better. Thank you. If there's no other business, we'll move to item 9, although we're going to skip over this item per our amended agenda. So we will now move to item number 10, a period for the first of 2 periods of public comment. Speakers should provide their name and address for the record and keep their comments under 3 minutes in length. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Ms. Anders, come on down.
Phyllis Anders, 1837 Oak Ridge Road, Oak Ridge. Madam Mayor and Council, thank you for another great budget in meeting the needs of our growing town.
Excuse me, could you bring that down a little bit more? Thank you.
Madam Mayor and Council, thank you for another great budget in meeting the needs of our growing town and supplying the many requests and demands of our community. I'm glad to see the support given to the annual events such as Heritage Day, Ridge Fest, and many other events that bring a closer net of our Oak Ridge community. The state and federal grants secured for many of our projects will contribute to the construction cost and help with moving forward on the projects of which we are grateful for. Thank you each for your many hours of service and well-being for the Oak Ridge town.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
The back there.
Yes, come on down. Sorry, I can't remember your last name. Jacob Bender, Mr. Bender. Thank you.
There we go. All right, Jacob Bender, 7022 Carriage Cove Drive in Oak Ridge. I'd like to add a bit to the discussion that has been had on the budget, if I may. I'd like to start, as others have, with the stipend allotted to council. It has been noted, as it was, I believe, last meeting, that this is a comparatively low portion of the budget. This is, of course, true. Two members of council even noted that those concerned were, in the grand scheme of things, focusing on rather small things. I think it's, what, 0.5% of the expenses this year? But objections to the increase are not solely about the stipend per se, although, as Mayor Pro Tem noted, it would rather cover others' costs, like I believe the pavement was something that was brought up several times. But instead it is, I believe, symbolic of the increase in expenditures of the town at what can be seen as an unwelcome rate. Now, as has been noted, this is one of our larger budgets. Councilman McClellan multiple times, as I believe the mayor noted, referred to this as the year of large projects. The idea here being that the large amount spent will not be a permanent increase, and I do hope that this is the case. We do have a lot of important projects coming up this year. But when is the last time that any of us has ever heard of temporarily high government expenses returning to regular levels? I haven't seen it very often, although I do hope, given this council's commitment to that, that it will happen. Now, the budget's passed. I recognize that. But from the choices made last year by council regarding taxation to the expenditures decided upon this year, I must, as others throughout this process have done, urge council to keep in mind that when this does crop up again next year, and you have to agree to a new budget, to recognize and keep in mind that this year's level of spending is unusually high and that it ought to return to standard levels as soon as is feasible and as possible while keeping in mind the goals of the town. In short, while we must continue to keep in mind the growth of the town and spending money as is needed on projects, we cannot, over the long run, allow the size of this year's budget to become the new normal. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak tonight? If not, I'll close this period for public comment, and we'll move to item number 11, which is the monthly financial update, and we'll turn to Finance Officer Sam Anders.
This is the one night a year that my report is not, in fact, the most exciting thing. You've already just thrashed out all the accounting and budgeting and numbers, and, you know, I'm kind of like the after act after the horses have gone by on the parade. But anyway, I appreciate y'all. The financial report, everyone should have got a copy by email. I did lay a updated finance officer's report at your stations. This afternoon, we got the numbers from the county with the collection for the month, as well as the Forvis contract came back to me, and we'll discuss that here shortly. But for the month, we had a fairly, normal for us. We're maintaining a strong position right now, $7.7 million in assets. Liabilities of short-term of $66.9, fund balances of $7.6 million. Overall, very strong positions. For the month, we brought in a little under $92,000 in revenues and spent $178,800. For this time of year, that's fairly normal. This is when the property taxes have cycled down because the majority are collected by the end of the year. Usually first month in January, we have the last of December that's collected. Motor vehicle collections have been very stable. One key thing, we did receive a once-a-year tax. If you look on the compilation report on page 1 of the income statement or statement of revenues and expenses, excuse me, fourth tax down, revenue code 3220 excise tax, $34,268.97. That is the annual excise tax for taxes collected on beer and other alcoholic beverages sold through grocery stores, convenience stores, et cetera, outside the ABC system. That's a once a year. And that's within realms of, what we were expecting. We're up $2,268.97, so about a 7% increase over last year. So, good performance on most of our collections, and most of our numbers are, we like to, as I was taught at UNCG, you underestimate your income and overestimate your expenses. Be very conservative about it. So we feel good about that estimate and the estimate moving into this next year. Following that, you've got the breakdown on the account balances report between the depository banks, followed by your supplementary Schedule 2, which has got all the detail on all the transactions, followed by the assets, and then finally Schedule 4 with the debt structure. As of today, we have made, by virtue of draft, the first payment on the loan for the Heritage Farm Park. And this is a little bit different. We had talked about, with the quote from the bank, it was going to be monthly interest, our principal plus interest. And that's what this is. However, due to the LGC delaying our start of the financing portion and the closing being on the 6th of April, it threw the calculations off such that the interest for the month of April and May were included together in this payment. So that's why you're seeing an $18,000 interest number. That represents interest from closing date on April the 6th, when we all gathered at the attorney downtown and signed, through May 31 being paid today. But that's kind of an aberration. From now on, it'll be the $16,666.67 principal plus interest per month. So we've got that. On your financial activity update, the wire transfer was received today. It was $893.65 for property taxes. Motor vehicle taxes is $7,552.09, and total received is $8445.74. There is that is the collections through yesterday. Due to a computer processing error, this has happened before. Somebody fat-fingered the wrong button. They did not include the interest on the tax collections. Now, $16.51 are not going to break us. However, it shows that a systems error. I immediately, when I did my normal monthly checks, I immediately emailed Jim Rowland. Within 2 hours, we had confirmed emails that this was being rectified before the close of business. Jim's a great guy to deal with. We've dealt with him for years. He runs a very tight ship, and his numbers, as usual, were right. The ACH transfer people were the ones that missed it. So minor change, but everything's good. Monthly sales and property tax, the interest we received, the dog park donations, y'all familiar with that. Other park revenues, the beer and wine excise tax that I mentioned, solid waste disposal taxes, some special events receipts, and donations to the Veterans Honor Green. So very normal income spread for the month. Our investments we're monitoring, we're watching the yields, watching the blend of things that are in the ICS program. Going through grant compliance, we're still working the LGC application process. That's a mistake on my part. We finished the LGC application process, thank God. The ARPA, SCIF grants, the CIP process, work on the potential water system, all of those are underway. And we did get our SAM number updated and reissued for the year. I wished it was named after me, but it's this long government acronym that became to SAM. And anyway, renewing that number annually is about as much fun as going to the dentist with no Novocaine. It is one of the more stranger things. They use double encryption, and after 30-some text messages with the encryption numbers on every answer that we made, Brianna got it done for us. And Bill's happy because it kept him from having to deal with them this year. But overall, everything's caught up. The other things I've got, a couple of motion down here and the contract. But before that, one other minor thing that we do have going on. We have got scheduled the preliminary interim audit procedures. It'll probably be 3 days in the third week of this month. And the auditors have been in touch with us. You know, this is all pending the contract you're going to approve, but we have to go ahead and schedule time out. And due to our projects and everything, they're coming in a little earlier on interim to go ahead and get some of this interim work knocked out, as well as evaluations on what we have to do towards the end of the year for any single audit or yellow book auditing we have to have as extra stuff. So the auditors have been great to work with on scheduling. Aside from the finance report I've just given you, I am requesting my annual motion to grant me authority to adjust the budget through 6/30/23 to ensure a balanced budget. I will report back via email since the July meeting is going to be held on the 29th of this month due to the holiday falling there. I will report by email to you what we've adjusted, and then hard copy reported publicly on 8/3/23 at that next meeting. And just for the public to understand, and I give this disclaimer every year, under state law, as a finance officer, I can adjust the budget on my own accord, legally. Procedurally, we've never done that. Y'all approve every budget adjustment that is performed. It either originates from staff or from myself as the FO for your approval before we adjust a budget. It's an extra layer of control that we have. This is the one time a year I asked, and it has always been granted, and hopefully y'all will this time. That way we can make absolutely sure that barring an emergency on the last second of the year, we will end the year with a balanced budget and everything will be in full adjustment and compliance, and you will in fact be notified. Is our control procedures a little over the top? Yeah, couple of people think they are, but I think it makes for good governance. I can do pretty much what I want to. Y'all answer to the citizens. I like that better than me. So I do have that annual request, and I will report back as I've stated here. And the last thing is the Forvis contract that you've received. Our attorney has some minor changes in a couple of spaces. They changed my title to finance director instead of finance officer, and a couple of typos just because that's what legal folks do. But what I would ask for is approval of the contract. The numbers have not changed. The scope of work has not changed. It would be asking for approval pending final review. They got the draft back late this afternoon. We sent them the email this morning. They got it redrafted with those corrections and sent back. Michael needs time to review it. Then I will get Ann to sign it, and I will do the signature, and we will transmit it to them, and they will handle the rest of the process, which is getting it signed by the local government commission and all the counter signatures. And then once done by the state LGC, we get contracts back from them. They send it simultaneously to the auditors and to us approving the contract. But I want to ask for that final draft of the contract. Once Michael's done with it and signed, I will get in your possession. So
Thank you.
That's 3 things that I need votes on.
Three.
Okay, I'll invite council. Thank you for that excellent report. I'll invite the 3 well, I'll let you take that if you'd like.
The 3 are the contract with Forvis, the request to grant the finance officer the authority to adjust the budget through 6/30 and to approve the monthly financial report. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll make the first motion. I make a motion that we approve the financial report from our finance officer as presented.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries and the finance report is accepted. Next, adjustments to the budget.
Martha's on a roll. Let her
Yep,
do it.
go for it.
Okay, I make the motion that we grant the finance officer authority to adjust the budget through 6/30/23 to ensure a balanced budget and to report back to council via email on July the 6th, 2023, and at the next town council meeting after year end, which is scheduled for 8/3/23.
George, you can have this one.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Any comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries, and that is approved.
Okay, I make a motion that, to approve entering the contract as presented with pending Michael's town attorney's final approval that takes care of the small corrections that were needed for language and titles, and that's good to go, I think.
I think you didn't mention the word with Forvis. I think
With Forvis.
You want that second?
I second that. Thank you. Is there any discussion on this item or any questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries and the contract is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilman Pittman, be honest, talking about an audit and numbers really got you happy.
Yeah, boy, I tell you what, these engagement letters just get longer and longer and longer and longer and longer.
Thank you again, Mr. Anders. We'll now move to item number 12, committee reports, and I'll invite brief reports of no more than 3 minutes, and we'll start with Historic Preservation Commission. Ms. Engel.
Barbara Engel, 8524 Rosedale Drive. Good evening. The Historic Preservation Commission did not meet this past month in May due to we had no COAs to approve, but we've been busy. The Historic Heritage Grant Committee had planned a meeting for the multiple applications this year, and no one showed up. But those property owners that we spoke to were unable to pull together the information by April 14th to request a heritage grant. They are still interested in a grant and hope to apply for an out-of-cycle grant at a later date. Also, we made 2 site visits. One was made to the Donnell Stone House for his heritage grant, and one to Maple Glade at Orma for their heritage grant and continuing projects. In both cases, the work had been completed and their grants were approved to be dispersed. The committee for the Historic Oak Ridge book has reached a milestone. The profiles or stories concerning each historic property have been completed and forwarded to Debbie and Schoenfeld and Caroline Rock, who will proofread each section. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Planning and zoning, Mr. Streck emailed me right before the meeting and said that he couldn't be here, but the one item, the text amendment that they had at their last meeting has been acted on already by this council. Mountains to See, I think everyone on council received the chair, Ms. Ann Steele's update via email. Are there any public announcements about work days?
Yes, their work days for June are scheduled on Saturday, June the 10th, and Wednesday, June 21st. Having those one on a Saturday and one during the week seems to work pretty well for the committee. She did not tell me, and I was not at the meeting. They will be in the Pemberley and Carriage Cove. We'll verify that, and we'll get the
Let's
announcements
verify.
out.
There's some work that needs to be done at the trail in the
Headwaters?
Cascades. Yes, the Headwaters Trail as well.
Okay.
So I would confirm that before making.
Check Facebook or call town hall.
Yes.
Has there been any resolution or further progress with the overly aggressive tree taking on the Headwater Trail?
We're working with the developer on making some adjustments to the property line, actually, to give us a little more room to reconstruct the trail in that location. And they've been great to work with so far.
Okay, thanks.
And I believe we're also considering some different types of remediation, but kind of waiting on that until we see how things are when they get through this initial construction phase.
Thank you.
Conservation Easement Committee, we didn't meet this month. Okay, that's right. Special Events Committee, Ms. Domchowski.
And Patty had her own special event recently.
50 years. Patty Demchowski, 7320 Hidden View Drive. Veterans Honor Green, we've had donations of $14,250 for the month of May. Our grand total to date, including future town matching, is $211,209.24. We're going to continue to fundraise as we are expecting the bids to come in higher than anticipated due to the rising building costs, just like everybody else is concerned with. We have received a proposal from Revington Reeves for help with construction phase services for the Veterans Honor Green. This proposal covers the bidding process and construction oversight from us during installation. And they gave us a side note that they are so excited that this project is coming to life, and we can see the end of the tunnel here. Memorial Day ceremony, our annual Memorial Day ceremony was moved inside again this year due to the weather concerns. The First Baptist Church Band provided patriotic music. Spencer did a wonderful invocation. The Scouts presented the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance. Ann and Ben did a great job, and our guest speaker, Pat Tillman, provided words of inspiration on honoring our fallen heroes. The attendance was very good as many showed up to honor our veterans. So I think we're doing better and better with the recognition and having people attend. 4th of July Kids Parade, which is Tuesday, July 4th. It's our next event, and we'll focus on setting up the festivities for this. Morning fun from 10 to 12 with the kids decorating their bikes with awards for special categories. The Lions Club is going to provide hot dogs. The Women's Club will be doing some face painting, patriotic music, and speeches to honor our nation's Day of Independence. This should be a fun time for the families here in Oak Ridge. Heritage Day, Saturday, September 30th, will again be participating and with our pound cake contest, which proved very successful last year. Benbow House 200th celebration is Sunday, October 15th, with a rain date of Sunday, October 22nd. We're working with the owners, the Smites, of the Benbow House to celebrate its 200th anniversary with house tours, wine and cheese, raffles, and music. Should be, again, a fun time for everyone. Light Up the Night, Saturday, December 2nd, will be held on the first Saturday of December with the same venue as last year. Vendors, food trucks, Santa, kids' activities, Grinch tractor rides, and many more activities. We will also celebrate the town's 25th anniversary with 25 stars being set up on the front lawn. The volunteers will set up the lights on Tuesday, November 28th at 10 o'clock to completion. And finally, our 25th anniversary of Oak Ridge is Saturday, January 13th, 2024. We'll celebrate the town's anniversary with a dinner, music, and recognition of volunteers. This will be at Oak Ridge Methodist Church. Thank you so much.
Quick, Patty, just one quick question. I didn't catch the time on the July 4th,
That will be 10 to 12.
10 to 12. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all that you do. Tree Board, I don't think Ms. Danner's here today. Oh, are you doing?
John's good for
Okay.
them.
Thank you for being here for that.
Good evening, council. It's good to be here. My name is John Browning, 8024 Linville Road, Oak Ridge. As a member of the tree board, we had a meeting this morning, and actually we appreciate Mayor Pro Tem Kinnerman being with us this morning, so it was good. We've been busy this morning, and then last meeting, we were reviewing, in the final stages of reviewing the landscape master plan for the park entrance. So hopefully we're getting close to just reviewing the trees and want to stay with native trees when we can for the landscape plan. So we're excited to go forward with that. We have had some discussions about the two large, I'm not sure if you're all familiar, oak trees that they're in at the entrance off Scoggins Road to the Heritage Farm Park. Our thought was, even without the construction, there's one tree that's really hollowed out in the middle and again, beyond probably spending any money or beyond any help. And actually, the second tree is showing some signs that it's in kind of the death and decay kind of mode. And I did call, Guilford County has a horticultural specialist, Ben Grandam, and he came out yesterday to take a look with me. We thought we'd let him be the bad guy, and it didn't take him long to recommend removal of both those trees, especially the big one with the hollowed out center. He said, he wouldn't even stand near it. You just never know what's going to happen with that tree. And there's evidence on the other tree that there's some death and decay, and it's just a matter of time before that tree would have to be taken down, irregardless of any construction. And actually, John Garrett was there, stopped by yesterday to meet with Ben, and Ben talked to Terry on the phone. And Ben Grandam said he would be willing to, give us a statement and anything that we would need as far as documentation. But we all were hopeful those trees would be salvageable. But he said, it's every tree has a lifespan, and both these trees are at the end of theirs. So what our plans were, we maybe thought about maybe reusing if there's any salvageable pieces of wood to use, later, maybe at the farmhouse or something. And we are losing 2 trees, but we're hopefully going to plant 6 or 8 trees to take their place in appropriate spots. So anyway, just due to the condition of the trees and the liability aspect too, that those trees, it's our recommendation that we remove both those 2 big oak trees. And that is it from our meeting. Thanks.
Thank you.
They truly agonized over those 2 trees. They did not willingly give up, but they went through a very methodical process of evaluating the tree and talking to the experts. So, that they come back and say that those 2 trees should go, I think the due diligence has been done.
And one of our members did have a checklist that takes the subjectivity out. The condition of the trees and there's a checklist, and if it scores a certain percentage, then the tree should be removed. So it scored to remove it.
Yeah.
Thank you for your care in coming to those recommendations. Parks and Rec Advisory Board, Mr. Garrett.
I'm John Garrett. I live at 8604 Broomfield Road in Oak Ridge. I'm co-chair of the Oak Ridge Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I'd like to give you an overview of our activities in May. We did not have a meeting because there wasn't any agenda items to meet on. But on May 13th, we did have the Music in the Park event, which we believe was the most attended one that's ever been. It was estimated about 1,000 people attended. There was a great feedback after the event from the citizens on the music, the vendor services, and even the security officer had very positive comments regarding the conduct of all the attendees. It was the first sponsored Music in the Park also, and the feedback from the sponsors was very positive. I'll just mention the sponsors we had. There was Marina Shepherd and Associates, who is our Allen Tate broker in Oak Ridge Commons, Domino's Oak Ridge, Tarmax, and the Phoenix Edge. The only concern that we had about the event was that we just did not have enough parking. We hadn't planned for overflow parking, so we'll do that before the next sponsor event. And that is June 10th. It's at 6:30, and there'll be 7 food trucks at this event, and also a beverage garden. The band will be Radio Revolver. But in case there's inclement weather, the event will be held in the Family Life Center of Oak Ridge Methodist Church. Of course, spirited beverages will not be served. The food trucks will be there. I don't know if it'll be the same number, but they will be there. I want to just give one announcement for the month of June. Let's jump ahead just a little bit. Fields 3 and 4 at the Oak Ridge Park are going to be closed to sports events starting June 13th until mid-August. Of course, this is really a time when they're least used. They're the two large fields. They're being closed because of surface leveling and turf repairs. They're in desperate need of it. I was going to just remind everyone about the Heritage Farm Park closure, but I think that's been talked about quite a bit. But I will say also, there is an article in Northwest Observer that's really good about it today. I saw that, so just a reminder of those who walk there like me. So I walk there about every day, except not anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. We probably should remind people of the groundbreaking event that will be in Heritage Farm Park on Wednesday, June 7th at 1 o'clock. Finance Committee, do you have anything further, Mr. Jenkins?
Dollars was not trivia to the Finance Committee. They noticed that and they asked questions about it. It was the subject of a lot of discussion. It was a discussion item for one of the Finance Committee meetings, and it was unanimously endorsed by the Finance Committee. And we are citizens of Oak Ridge, and none of us were tone deaf. Thank you.
Thank you. And Water Advisory Board, Mr. Harton.
Jim Harton, 5901 Pepper Road. The Water Advisory Committee did meet on May 24th. What we primarily did was focus on a review that was held earlier that day with the Wooten Company. Break it into two parts, the tank and tank site. I think everybody knows the tank site selection has been made, the survey has occurred, geotechnical investigations of the tank site are complete. Tank design is finished. Wooten is preparing for permitting. Specific paint colors for the tank and logo will need to be submitted before the bids can be issued. It was indicated that we need a short asphalt drive from the town parking area up to the water tank. Security for the tank will be a chain link fence with black PVC coating and barbed wire. Landscaping and plantings will go around that to screen the fence. The town council, the Historic Preservation Commission, and Planning and Zoning have already approved the site plan, but the Water Advisory Committee and Town Council will still need to approve final drawings before they are sent to the state for permitting. The state review could take at least several weeks, maybe more. And more important is the town is still awaiting official agreement from the town of Winston-Salem for supplying us water. Once all of that is in place is when the project can be bid out. The town did clarify for Wooten that from the tank itself that we wanted to go ahead and put a 12-inch water line down Linville Road to the fire department so that essentially, again, the purpose of this initial tank is fire suppression and water needs for the park. There are some various issues with well pump and pressure switches and electrical controls that we reviewed. And I remind the council that the estimated cost for the tank and tank site is $2.3 million. Construction will take about a year once the bids are issued, approved, and contracts awarded. The town does have these funds in reserve for this project. Regarding the other part of the larger part, the water main, again, we previously indicated that the town needs an agreement with Winston-Salem on supplying us water before we do anything. The water line, and consistent with what we recommended, was a plan be developed. So the water line route from Highway 150 from the Forsyth County line has been surveyed and is set. CAD drawings have been initiated. Soil borings will be needed for road crossings location, and a booster pump station may be needed as well. We have some other work to do on this project, but more importantly, as indicated, there's no, the funding for that part of the program is incomplete at this time. And I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you. We'll now move to item 13, community organization reports, but I don't see Mr. Collins here to report for ORYA, nor do I see anyone from the military academy or the elementary school, so we're done with that part. We'll move to item number 14, a second period of public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Micah. Great to see you.
I just wanted to say,
Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, sorry.
I'm Micah Spencer from 6315 Nesting Way in the Herons Nest community. And I just wanted to say that I really appreciate Councilman Kinnaman's commitment to make sure that we don't overpay him. Like, I think that's a really nice thing to do. Like, when I was an alternate on Parks and Rec, like if someone had offered to pay me, I wouldn't have said anything about it. But I just wanted to say that, like, I think this is my thought, and like this is, I don't think I'm the only citizen that thinks this. Like, I think that even just given the accumulation of knowledge that's like on the council, like I think it's really great. Like, we have a mayor who, like, for many years served on like historic preservation. And like I know that like Councilman Pittman and I think also Councilman McClellan also served on like planning and zoning and like a lot of the other boards. I think that the pay increase is deserved because it's not just like we have council people, but there are also people who have like devoted just like a lot of years of volunteer service to the town. So I think even from just like the accumulated years of service that like I'm in favor of a pay increase because like at least in my view, like I think everybody up here really deserves it. And like with Jim, I know like he is being very modest about it, but like I really love having a town councilman just even thinks about before like we cut all the trees down. Like that's one of my favorite things like about Oak Ridge is that we're a tree city and that we just don't like cut everything down without thinking about it. So like, I'm perfectly happy with like rewarding the town council for all their hard work. I just want to say that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Seeing no one, I'll close this.
Sam.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's taken off his finance officer's hat.
Yep. Sam Andrews, 1829 Oak Ridge Road. It was my pleasure last night at Northwest at the awards ceremony to award the Strength and Honor Scholarship to Logan Bryant of Oak Ridge. The board of the department, the Rosoli family, George for the town representative, and Ray Parrish as a representative for the faculty at Northwest, approved a $2,500 scholarship for Logan. She will be using it to study at Appalachian State University to study healthcare management. But it was very nice ceremony, and Northwest has some incredible graduates. I believe the total of scholarships was in excess of $10 million. And rather interesting, 2 appointees to Annapolis. Very rare to have multiples from the different service schools, but 2 for the Naval Academy out of the same graduating class. It's extremely, extremely rare. But we were glad to be there last night to participate in it, and incredible group of young people there. But thank you for your support. George has always helped us out with the Strength and Honor Fund, and the community has been good in supporting us with fundraising. This is the 14th year. Logan was the 19th applicant in the 14 years, and we managed to have our very first scholarship recipient helped me last night, Lieutenant Staunton, who has spoke to y'all. He was the Northwest class of 2010, and that scholarship is what enabled him to get his credentials and his education. So the family is in northern Maryland now, but they still keep in contact with us here and are still ongoing fundraising efforts in trying to make this a perpetual scholarship that will always be able to remember Andrew, and that remembrance will be helping others to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Will now, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Did I miss anyone else? Okay. If not, we'll close the period of public comments, and we'll move on to a final period of council comments, and we'll start with you, Councilman McClellan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, thanks everybody who is still with us at the end of this meeting. And I want to thank the folks on the Finance Committee for their outstanding work. I want to thank the folks over on Parks and Recs. I was at that MST, or not MST, but the Music in the Park event. I was one of those 1,000 people and had a great time. And I can hardly wait to this month's, MST. I think it'll be or Music in the Park. It'll be as exciting. I know tonight we have passed a tremendous budget that I believe, hopefully I think it might actually be a historic budget that will be, with ultimately funding 3 projects. And, it is such an honor to be on this council and to be working with, the citizens on, our various committees. I mean, it's just truly an honor for me. We have a lot of work still to do, though. And that's the reason, as of tonight, I am announcing that I am running for re-election to town council. And as always, I'm asking for your vote in November. Once again, it's an honor to serve you. And I look forward to that, to continuing to be there with you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kinnaman.
John, if anything I said implied any tone deafness on the part of Finance Committee, I deeply apologize. That was not directed in any way toward your committee. It was directed to council. We make the final decision based upon your recommendations. Your committee does a great job. I value your guidance and your recommendation. I appreciate your recommendation for the increase in the stipend. I do. But any reference to any shortcomings was not directed in any stretch of the imagination to the Finance Committee, and I apologize if any of my selection of my words implied that in any stretch of the imagination. So I apologize if that's the message you heard. I apologize. As always, June 12th. Blood drive, United Methodist Church. If you can donate blood, please do. If you can't donate, if there's someone else that that can donate, please do. They now have homemade baked goods now, so you can have some pretty interesting stuff there. So again, if you can donate, please consider donating. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pittman. Woman Pittman.
Yes, I think every kid in Guilford County and throughout the country is counting days to the last day of school. I know my grandson is. When I called to wish him a happy birthday, he turned 6, and he told me how many more days before he was a first grader. So school will be out soon, and I want to congratulate all those who are graduating from high school and graduating from college and moving on to the next part of their lives. Wish them well, Godspeed, but I also think about the kids that are going from grade to grade and school to school. And so I want to wish them all a happy, joyful, playful, but safe summer, and see them next year in our schools here. Thanks.
Thank you. Getting our new budget to this point and getting us through the end of the fiscal year, which we're almost at, is a huge hurdle for our administrative staff. They do so much at this time of year and always, as do our park staff. This month, when you see one of them at the park or you come into town hall, take a moment to just say thank you for what they do. And don't forget to congratulate Ashley on her new designation as a certified municipal clerk. We held our first town council hours, a monthly time for residents to come in and speak to 2 of our council members about anything, about upcoming meeting, decisions, budget, anything. We held the first one in May. The next one will be held on Thursday, June 22nd from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. in advance of our July meeting, which will be held on June 29th to avoid the July 4th holiday. You can drop in anytime during that period. You don't have to stay. You don't have to come right at 8:30, and you can also attend by Zoom. So again, take advantage of this or call any one of us at any time. Happy Father's Day to all the dads, and special congratulations to Sergeant Major Grace Nicholson at the Oak Ridge Military Academy for a merchant scholarship that she gave, and we also, the Merchants of Oak Ridge also awarded a scholarship to a graduating senior at Northwest High School last year, this year, graduating this year. And the Lions Club, I know, also awarded a scholarship last night.
We did, and I apologize for not having the name handy.
I know, I suddenly blanked out on the Merchants Scholarship for Northwest, so I'm sorry about that too, but an amazingly accomplished young woman. These are exciting times for these young people. If there's nothing further, I'll invite a motion to adjourn.
Motion, we adjourn?
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The meeting is adjourned.